Hey, let's start the show.
It's March 21st, 2013. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I'm Will Smith. Joining me today, Norman Chan. How you doing, sir?
All right.
We're actually recording on Thursday today. It's a little unusual for us.
Yes, early on Thursday.
Early on Thursday. Kind of a weird day yesterday.
Yeah, we're supposed to record this yesterday, but then things came up and a lot of things happened.
We went and
Things
shot
happened with people involved that took determinate number of time and equipment.
Five hours.
And
We
a
spent
day- and a day
5
passed
hours
by.
yesterday. Yeah.
Vague.
I posted a picture.
Okay.
It went on Google Plus and Facebook.
Google Plus, even. How
yeah.
many people follow you on Google Plus?
I don't know how to check that.
I think if you search anything that you've written or that has your name in it,
No, it doesn't-
in Google, it pops up and it'll kind of affiliate it with your Google Plus account, and then it'll say followed by X thousand number of people.
Wow, really?
Yep.
I have 15,784 people have me in circles.
In circles.
Probably like 30% of those people are spammers, if I had to guess, or pornographers, judging by
Or real estate moguls.
Yeah, there's a lot of social media
ambitious
experts.
real estate moguls.
So I've been posting on Google Plus more lately. It's interesting because you kind of have conversations. Each post, instead of like Twitter where you make a post and then like 10 or 15 people respond, or 20 or 30 or however many, and you have an individual conversation with each person, and they kind of it's like infinite universes branching off from each other. Every time you make a tweet, then you get 10 or 20 infinite conversations, and they all kind of go different directions. With Google Plus, because everybody can see what everybody else is posting, it ends up being much more like a message board thread, which kind of appeals to me, except for the app still is not so hot.
What about the community is just like a message board community where it's...
I tend to ignore the wall of text posters. Like that's the people who post like a 6,000 word response to a 50 word question.
Some people use it as their blogging platform.
I'm cool with that. That's fine. That's great. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's a little weird. Like I can't see myself using it to like browse information or whatever, but I can definitely see it's a good way to talk to people. I mean, I think that's nice.
People who otherwise are not on other social networks.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not ever going to probably use Facebook for anything more than liking pictures of friends' babies and finding out that I have a high school reunion that I may or may not go to.
That only happens every 5 years or so.
10. It's the first, I'm on 20 now.
I just had 10.
Wow. Yeah. So did you go? You went,
Yeah,
right?
I went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it a good time?
Yeah.
Is it people you see often? Because you like live in the same city.
It's people I see often.
See, it's people I haven't seen in 20 years for the most part.
It's very different for, a high school reunion.
I'd have to travel.
Yes.
Like I don't know if it's worth a plane ticket for me and the wife and the kid to go back to the home country.
Well, the next one that happens is 20th next one that happens for you. Next one
this year.
upcoming. Well, then you have a baby to show.
I mean, that's the thing. I finally done something with my life.
You have something to show and tell at the high school reunion.
I don't think you take your baby to the high school reunion. It's at a bar.
Oh, then
it's not like they got the gym or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. The high school reunion seemed weird. We didn't have a 10th, so I've never been to one. And I think Gina.
Sometimes they do 5 also. I think they do the first 5.
Yeah, that seems like people still in school.
You're not at a point where the high school reunion is fewer people are there.
So when you had your 10th reunion, were there people that had kids already?
Yes, there were
like a handful. You went to a good high school.
Very handful.
Just to be clear.
Very small number. I think like maybe 1 or 2 had kids in the 5-year reunion, and then maybe double that. Under 10 that I know of had kids at the 10th year.
So when you go to the next one, it'll flip. So the people who haven't had kids will be the minority at that point.
And then a couple more later, then the kids go up to tell you that, oh, your friends are no longer with us.
Oh, that's grim.
Yeah, you don't want don't go to those high school reunions where then you're just checking. Oh, still around?
But then you roll back into like the 70th when it's just like when the people for the 10th trot you out as a survivor.
I went to lunch 2 weeks ago and at this restaurant, and it was in the Sunset area in San Francisco, and there's elderly couple came and sat by next to us and started saying, "Oh, you guys students here?" Because it was near
UCSF.
UCSF.
Was this like a Saturday, Sunday situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, "Oh, I went to school here 45 years ago."
Wow, that school was here 45 years ago?
45 years ago. Lived out. Oh, it's great. And then nothing much happened. But maybe 20 minutes later, I overheard, "Oh, is Robert still alive?"
Yeah.
That's a bad place to be.
I'm starting to get that with like my parents. Like,
oh no, he's gone.
People my parents went to college with and stuff. Like that started. You say, "Hey, have you seen so and so?" I got an email from his because like I have friends that are my parents' friends' kids, right? Because we would go on vacations and stuff together as children. We were kept in touch, and some of them haven't made the transition at this point, or maybe they have made the transition. It's taking a dark turn, Norm.
Well, speaking of death,
yeah. Google killed some stuff last week.
So there we go.
Spring cleaning is what they call this. But basically, what they did
actually call it that, or is that just what people call it?
The official Google blog post was titled "Spring Cleaning." I emphasis mine. They killed Google Reader last week, among a couple of other things that nobody uses. So I guess this is a year after the anniversary of Google Wave getting the axe. They killed another service that no one uses.
Google Wave only a year ago?
It was 2 years ago. It seems like it
still miss Google Wave.
We use Wave a lot, but I like Docs just as well now. It does the same stuff. Drive, same thing. So yeah, they killed Google Reader, and people are really fucking pissed, like super duper pissed.
So why did they kill Google Reader? Why did they say they killed Google Reader, and then why do you think they killed Google Reader?
I'm going to get the official Google blog up and read the quote.
No, okay.
The official Google Reader blog. Here we go. We have just announced on the official. This is from the Google Reader blog, actually. Okay. So this is from Alan Green, who is I assume on the Reader team, and is now going to do other stuff. Sorry, I should have learned from Adam not to drink Diet Coke during the podcast, but whatever. We have just announced on the official Google blog that we will soon retire Google Reader. The actual date is July 1st, 2013. We know that Google Reader has a devoted following who will be very sad to see it go. We're sad too, period. New paragraph. There are two simple reasons for this. Usage of Google Reader has declined, and as a company, we're pouring all of our energy into fewer products. We think that kind of focus will make for a better user experience. To ensure a smooth transition, we're providing a 3-month sunset period, so you have sufficient time to find an alternate.
Whatever. So there's 3 months for people to find new alternatives.
You can pull your data out using Takeout, which is their data survival thing.
An increasingly useful service.
Yeah.
So their stated reason for killing Google Reader is twofold. One, fewer people using it.
Yeah.
But vocal people. And two, they want to focus on fewer products, meaning interpretation of that is
products
that make money.
I don't know about products that make money, but maybe products that are growing rather than shrinking. So the thing that's a little disingenuous about this to me is they actually updated Google Reader about 6 or 8 months or a year ago. It's at some point in the indeterminate past, and kind of fucked it up according to the people who were the long-term users. People left at that point and haven't been back, and the people that are still using it are the ones that are clinging on.
So clinging on, hoping they'll change it back.
I don't know about that. I think they were just hoping that they wouldn't mess it up further. I'm not a Google, the way I use Google Reader is not the way that hardcore RSS reader people use. I put a bunch of sites in that I like and then connect that to Reader or Feed or Pulse or Flipboard or one of those services and just use Google Reader as kind of a clearinghouse for sites that I like.
Some people really love RSS because they are not on the computer all day.
Well, and then some people, it seems, also love RSS because they have an obsessive-compulsive need to see every piece of content that sites that they follow produce.
The reason I do that as well, but I don't like RSS for doing that because, one, there's a lot of overlap, and two...
You mean overlap between sites?
Between sites, in terms of content, and two, I have aggregation sites that help me, that curate that for me.
Yeah. You trust people to do that, yeah,
and or algorithm based and smart and people based, but also I want to see content the way I believe content should be viewed the way that the website creator intended it to be viewed, which is on either on a phone or on a web page with designed the way that web page is designed. So the placement of the story, the layout of the story, I think those things are very important, and those things get stripped out with Reader.
Well, yeah, for me,
it's the same reason I don't use a lot of like read it later Instapaper stuff, unless it's on sites that unless I just want the text. I've been to the site and I just want the text.
Yeah, if it's a long story. Okay, so I used to be a hardcore RSS reader user 5 years ago, probably. Let's say
ingest news,
2006 to 2000.
And the purpose was to keep up with current events.
It was that I was focused on news as my job in a way that I'm kind of not anymore, or not as much. And so I focused from. So what happened to me was I stopped using RSS because a lot of the sites that I used went to digest RSS feeds, which make RSS almost useless. Because if RSS is then just a series of pointers into links to the real articles, then why bother? Mm-hmm. Also, the thing that you said, the design thing is important to me. Like I agree. Like when the pictures weren't coming through as big, or they were aligned in an odd and difficult to read
for better
way.
Or worse.
Yeah,
and there it's not just appreciating the design, because some design is you can appreciate and some you can recognize as not being great, but it's where brains work, at least the brain, some people's brains works, pattern recognition and just identifying content with the content owner and the creator.
Well, you look at the frame and you know where the story came from, and that
context builds up context in your brain relative to that site and that author and that story.
Yeah.
More so than a feed of text, even if they pull useful information like comments and all the pictures and stuff.
Yeah, like I have a completely different set of expectations for, say, a Boing Boing story and an Atlantic story, right?
Yes.
And I'm reading them for different things.
And you scan homepages differently and scan stories differently.
Yeah. And there are some pages that I read. Well, first off, the thing that broke this for me was I went on vacation for 2 weeks. I think it was when we were still at Max PC, maybe even before you started. And when I came back, one of the things I did was I sat down with my RSS reader and I started where I left off and scanned through probably 20,000 stories that had been posted in 2 weeks. And about 4 hours into this, maybe one night, I was like, this is an unbelievable waste of my time. Right, this is all like I'm reading minutia. It's coming across 4 or 5 times.
So, what is the correct way to catch up on news?
So, I think I don't think there is a correct way to catch up on news.
I'll say the correct way is to don't lose track of it.
Well, or willingly just say I'm going to bathe in the sea of news and dip in and dip out, rather than try to you don't, when you want to drink from a river, you don't build a dam and put a pipe and then put your mouth in front of the pipe. You take a ladle and you scoop and you drink. And that's the, we are in an information surplus. I think one of the challenges that I have as a parent and that we have as people going forward is that we have infinite information, whether it's,
but you might have missed something.
I don't care. Well, yeah. Being able to not care turns out is the most important thing. And I'll tell you a secret. The important stuff percolates to the top. So if you pay attention to other stuff, you'll find it. So when I don't follow any movie blogs, I don't regularly visit any movie sites. I don't subscribe to anybody on Twitter. But when there's an Iron Man trailer or when the Star Trek trailer leaked last night, I knew as fast as anyone else because it was on Twitter within about 5 minutes, and I was watching the leaked Star Trek trailer. Right? I care about Star Trek, but I don't care enough to read the other 85 posts a day that go up on those movie blogs that I don't give a shit about, just to get the one thing that I do care about. And
I completely understand, and that's a very sensible way of doing things. I do the complete opposite, but I would rather keep up to date with the mechanism that I have it, which is
just you read 20 blogs
20
a day.
Tabs in web browsers across multiple spaces, as opposed to one feed.
Yeah, and so part of this is that there is no right way for everybody. Different people have different amounts of time available for this, and different people value it at different levels. And here's a crazy thought. What you value when you're 25 is probably going to be different than what you value when you're 35.
That's very true.
So the thing, I wrote a thing about what I do now last week. If you were interested, read it. People got really upset because they thought I was saying that Google Reader is dumb. I don't think RSS feeds are dumb. I don't think using an RSS reader is dumb. I think it's not right for me. And what I do now basically is filter everything through social networks by getting the people who are writing, the original content producers, I follow them and strip the links out, basically.
And But I think we all agree that Google getting rid of Reader is a disservice to some people.
I think it is. I think it sets a really bad tone for people.
For many people.
For if Google's mission is to get you to use their cloud services, and they are saying, oh, this is no longer like it was one thing for Wave, which was a never popular service, to sunset. That was clearly a beta product the entire time. It was an experiment, and they said that up front. Google Reader is what I would describe as a mature product. It was the market leader in online RSS readers. A ton of third-party services had built their infrastructure around it. So if you used most of the RSS reader clients on tablets and phones, actually tie into your Google Reader account, pull the feeds from there using their API, and then you serve you news based on that. So it keeps it all in sync across multiple. So
it breaks. You're saying it breaks other services and websites.
It breaks a ton of other stuff, and the fact that they're willing to sunset that because they released an update that made it less popular, so the number of users is declining, and then cited that as the reason the number of users is declining, illustrates one of the fundamental problems with RSS in general. I mean, with cloud services in general, it's that it's a one size fits all, not a.
And maybe it's a sign that Google is changing its strategy and throwing, and they have been throwing less stuff at the wall and focusing more on the big shots, the long shots.
So it makes me here's the thing that's bad for me is they announced yesterday. What's it called? Notes. It's a notes service. Keep. Yeah. I'm much less likely. So I'm happy to use Google for ephemeral stuff. Email. Email is something that, yes, I mean, it's great to have a long-term archive of email, but realistically, I go back and look at old emails once every 2 months, and most of the time it is in and out.
I don't think you can compare something like a small project like Keep to something like Reader, though.
No, I know, but what's my incentive to start using Keep and build my workflow around Keep? If it doesn't take off, then they're going to kill it. 2 years down the line.
Keep is not a service, it's just an app.
Well, it's tied to what's it tied to? Google Drive in the background?
I don't think Google Drive's going away.
You don't think that now, but what if something better comes along and the user share shrinks?
I mean, then we're all fucked.
Obviously,
we're all invested in Google Drive right now.
Right, I'm playing devil's advocate, but the point is, sunsetting something, giving 3 months to sunset something that millions of people use, is not sufficient.
In terms of the alternatives,
so they could have open sourced this.
They
could have open sourced the service. They could have said, "Look, we're going to run this for a year. Which would be
a penny in their operating costs,
very low percentage." Yeah, they could have said, "Here's." I mean, there's better ways to do this transition. Is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Inelegantly handled.
There are good alternatives. Is the takeaway? We are not in a position to evaluate RSS readers.
Not as established as big RSS reader users.
People that are, however, including the fine folks at Lifehacker and bunch of other people have recommended this actually that are hardcore RSS people, have said there are 3 common services that pop up or sites that pop up. One is NetBlur, which I think collapsed under the load last week when the announcement that Google Reader was going away went down. It's a subscription service, which I think, for something like this, it's crucial to workflow. I'm happy to pay for a sub.
Yeah, if you are... And then this goes into what should be free and what should people pay for. If something is a service or a program that you rely on, then you should be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean,
and on the other flip side, that should be available as an option for people to pay for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like if Google Reader went sub only and they used a small sub to cover their operating costs for that, I don't think anyone would complain.
And this applies to Google Drive too.
Yeah.
If I know. It's very unlikely that Google will start charging for Drive, given how many people rely on it. But Google Docs wasn't just good because it was a free alternative to Office, but because it's actually a better alternative, giving all the cloud stuff before modern Office.
And that it's a better alternative for certain types of workflow. For you and I and people where you have a lot of shared documents and not a lot of complex stuff, it's great.
And documents that are written and then don't need to be sent off and printed out and
put in a filing cabinet someplace. But yeah, we haven't really talked about the paying for stuff that you use. I've been a subscriber to Flickr for a decade now. I've happily paid $25 a year.
$25 a year.
It's $6.99 a month, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Why would you not just pay $25 a year?
Some people just want to try it.
So you recently did you pay?
No, I don't pay.
You haven't paid. So what's the free offer on
300
Flickr
megs a month
of upload?
Of upload.
So you're curating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think the difference is also no full size images. No original.
So you can't upload like
No, you can, but this won't show.
Okay.
They'll save it, but no one can access it, not even you.
Okay. Can you still get all like the XF filtering and all that stuff though,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So Flickr is a good example of that. I've been happy to pay for that. I've been looking at calendar apps for iOS lately. So things like calendar replacements like Fantastical, and I just downloaded a new one yesterday called I think Sunrise. Fantastical is expensive. It's like $4 or $5. Sunrise is
something I
free.
use every day. I will pay for it.
That's exactly it. I'd much rather have something that has a stable business model based around me giving them money if I'm going to rely on it than that. It's like when Sparrow was bought by Gmail. I'm super bummed about that because it's a great mail client. They're not going to support it anymore by Google. They're not going to support it anymore, and I feel like that was a little bit of a letdown after paying them money for a product. But whatever.
What are the two other alternatives?
Feedly, so NetBlur, Feedly, and NetVibes are the three that pop up most often. Feedly weathered the load, I think, better than anybody else at the announcement. It seems like everything was back working again when I looked yesterday or day before. So if you are an RSS reader person, it's important you pull your OPML file, and that OPML file is an XML file that contains the list of all the feeds you subscribe to and your preferences on that. So if you pull that out with Takeout, then you can put it into any of these other services.
And keep an eye out for other RSS alternatives. Dig is doing one.
Yeah.
Putting a ton of resources in it.
Yeah.
Which is it's good for them.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think RSS was much more important before Dig and Reddit in a lot of ways.
Before social aggregators.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the old days, you had, FARC and Metafilter and those kinds, and Slashdot to kind of do some curation and filtering. But then... if you wanted the raw, unfiltered feed, then you went to RSS. And now, the thing that I especially like are the tools that take, say, a social feed, like a Twitter list, and then strip out all of the tweets with links.
And photos and videos.
Yeah, and that is an incredibly useful thing, because it takes out all the chaff from a Twitter feed and gives you just, the
and they should be
meatiest
ones
content.
that, only surface ones that are favored X number of times.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, the best of the best of the best.
Yes, filter the filters.
Google did add something last week. Well, we talked about Keep.
Refinement. Have you used Keep?
I haven't. I don't
That's why I have the second phone right now. It's an Android-only app. It's a note-taking app. And there haven't been really good note-taking apps on Android, really. I think Papyrus is the one I've been using. And Keep is it's free. It's Android right now. I'm sure it'll make its way to iOS. It is like notes and reminders on iOS combined. Designed in the very modern Google app way. You can create checklists, notes.
So was there not a task list? There's a task list in Android, right? Or no? There wasn't one before? It was on the calendar.
Yeah. No separate app to jot down notes. And I love taking note apps. I'm not sure if Google Keep is integrated into Google Voice right now, the way that I can create reminders with Siri and iOS.
Okay.
But
you mean not Google Voice, you mean Google...
Google Search.
Voice Search,
just voice search.
Because voice is the phone thing.
Yeah, the voice search, whatever is just built into the search bar, or Google Now even. But Keep, you can insert images and audio clips and stuff like that. You cannot draw in it, which is something I wish it had.
So it's kind of like the Evernote. It's an Evernote competitor, except for Evernote lets you do images and sketches and all that stuff.
Yes. So this one, I don't think you can do sketches, or at least I haven't been able to find it, but it all syncs to drives, just like Evernote syncs to the Evernote cloud. So
it's funny you mentioned that, because I've been on... I was talking to a friend the other day about their note-taking ability, and what I've been doing for years is just dumping flat text files into a Dropbox folder, and then every few months sweeping them out and sweeping out the old stuff and putting it in an archive.
I use a Notes app on iOS relentlessly. I have notes all the way back from to 2010, 2009.
So I started using Simple Note, which is very similar to Keep. It's a text-only note-taking app. It'll sync across. Simple Note is a service, so it'll sync to a cloud, come back down. They offer a premium sub for $10 a year, $20 a year, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is. And then there's an API, so there are phone and desktop client. There's a phone, a desktop client, and I think a tablet version. So they produce the tablet and phone versions for iOS. There's like notational velocity works with it on the Mac and Linux and PC. I think there's a thing called Just Notes that I downloaded, and it's fantastic on the Mac on the Mac rather. And basically, what it does is it gives you a way to, you know how when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I need to take down a phone number, or I'm in a meeting and I need to take a bunch of notes. It just gives you a way to save those and share them with people.
Enter,
basically
type. Control S.
Except for this gives you allows you to search across all of your notes and all that stuff. I'll write more about it when I've used it for a little bit longer, but it's definitely replacing the giant folder full of text files, which and actually the nice thing is it actually works with the giant folder full of text files too. So even if I'm on something that I don't have access to, I can still go to Dropbox on the web and see all of my stuff there. In addition,
easier than emailing yourself.
Yeah, it's much better than emailing yourself.
It also works.
So the difference with this is there's no reminders and no kind of task. Like the task list is a flat text file rather than a big giant long list of stuff to do.
Google added
a GIF filter to image search.
I think you're confused as to which is the right pronunciation.
I can't remember where I stand on this now.
You can't remember. You've gone full circle.
I'm pretty sure it's GIF is where I stand, because that's what the original
GIF.
CompuServe. CompuServe's original pronunciation was GIF. Yeah, there you go. We're not going to do this again.
Wow, you can't remember.
I don't think that the Enterprise.
Can't remember which one.
I don't think that the Star Destroyer could beat the Enterprise. That's all I'm saying.
GIF.
Pretty sure the Enterprise's phasers and photon torpedoes would dismantle
think about
the Executor.
This way. I think people wanted to say GIF.
I think you have it backwards. People want to say GIF. It's like jib and gib. Jib is the proper pronunciation because it's like giblets.
Uh-oh.
This is GIF.
Well, okay, all right.
Executor.
So Google Search now has a image search.
You can search. It's had image search for years, but now you can filter by animated GIFs.
If you want to see how subtly Google tweaks its Google Search, use image search, because they have been tweaking that nonstop.
15 years, 13 years.
Year with minor updates here and there. You can tell, and obviously the way they do A/B testing, like sometimes you don't like
we're always being
Google
tested on
can be different from someone else's Google.
Yeah.
But the way they arrange their menus and the options they show, I mean, it just shows how quickly they evolve that platform.
It's pretty bananas. Okay, so I think that's all the Android stuff, Google stuff we have this week. We'll talk about the Galaxy S4 in a minute, but I want to save that for a bit. Let that kind of stew. Kevin Lynch, who is one of the creators, he was a Macromedia guy, one of the creators of Flash, has
CTO
been at
of Adobe.
Yeah, he's leaving.
CTO.
He's leaving Adobe to be the VP of technology at Apple.
Not senior VP though. Works for Bob Mansfield.
Yeah, I find this really interesting because I guess this means that the Flash wars are finally over. And have been for a while now.
They have been for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not like this hire or do not understand this hire because Kevin Lynch has been very anti-iOS and Apple for years, at least as a policy at Adobe.
Yeah, why wouldn't he be?
Written so much about, I mean, to promote Flash, of course.
He wrote the letter that prompted the Flash the Flash note from Jobs in like 2010? Yeah,
so I no idea what he'll be doing.
I don't know, probably putting Flash on iOS if I had to guess.
We'll see.
Sorry. No, I mean, it seems like the smarter analysis that I saw seemed to imply that he was into intersection of hardware and software, which is something he can't do at Adobe and is what Apple has been all about over the last 3 to 5 years, or 7 years, I guess now.
Hopefully he's a cultural fit because Apple has had bad hires in the recent past.
They'll just have him killed. It'll work itself out.
And they have not kept new executives long.
No, there's no safety net when you sign on for an executive job at Apple. Curiosity is out of safe mode now and is rolling again toward the mountains.
So why was it in safe mode?
I think there was a problem with one of the computers on, I can't remember whether it was the port or the starboard side, but basically one of the computers freaked out, went into like its fail-safe mode, and they, I assume, reinitialized software on that side of the rover. But it's rolling again, so good news. Oculus VR dev kits have been listed now as ready to ship for like 2 weeks.
How early were you on that?
I was in the first 1,500 or so. I think Jeremy Williams, friend of the site and former producer of the Maximum PC and PC Gamer podcasts, was like number 12 or something. He's real high on the list. I feel like he's probably dialed into Kickstarter better than anybody I know.
He was a support of Any Game the movie.
Yeah, he's in the credits.
Yeah, but way before.
I'm just in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying. First 1,500. I don't know how that bodes in terms of
it seems like
us getting it in the first wave.
We're in the first wave. We are absolutely.
Do you think they're going to
yeah, they said
1,500.
They said all of them they're shipping. Like they have a giant ass crate full of them. I don't know what the holdup is. So this is
It's supposed to be end of last year.
It was supposed to be end of last. I'm fine with that. I don't mind as long as they wait. I don't exactly understand why they're so they've been on a press tour. It seems like since South by basically.
They were not at South by.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, they weren't at South by as a booth.
No. They were
present.
They were doing.
The executives were there.
Closed room demos.
No, not even closed room demos.
Well, okay, in the lobby of the Four Seasons.
Yeah, they were not there to, as a presence.
However, they've been on The Verge in a big, huge way. They've been on Fallon.
Through The Verge.
They're getting a lot of press in a time that I don't understand why they're getting press. I don't know if Mossberg. He kind of doesn't write about gaming stuff.
That is a sign of mainstream. If Pogue and Mossberg have written about Oculus in recent memory in the past month, then
Pogue's kind of not been writing about stuff a lot lately. Yeah. They did do a demo at D. It looks like in
I don't
early
know
March.
if you could consider that mainstream press.
Hold on, here we go. It was written by Eric Johnson on All Things D, so it's been on All Things D. It's not written about by Mossberg, but yeah, they've definitely been doing or Lauren Good rather. They've been doing a lot of press,
enthusiast press to get enthusiasts excited.
Dude, getting on Fallon is not enthusiast press. That doesn't happen by accident.
That's novelty value, though.
I don't understand. I mean, so what are they doing here?
Getting investment.
You think that's it?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason to do mainstream press for any company at
they're already funded.
More.
I mean, they could probably use more funding, I'm sure.
More funding. I mean, we don't have the Oculus Rift yet. It sounds like they need production. They need to figure out production.
They're supposedly produced and ready to go.
I'm talking about consumer version.
Oh, right. Well, obviously they need money for that. Okay,
yeah, there you go.
So I mean, that makes sense.
They can go to a venture capitalist or a second stage investor.
I would think that they could probably do that already. I don't think getting on Fallon is going to help them with that.
Everything helps.
You think so?
Yeah, and at this point they have people. I mean, they're those people doing those tours for them. That's their jobs. I mean,
well,
they're not. There's no.
I think it's an 8-man company.
Well, if the prototypes are already in crates, then what are they doing? What else can they be doing?
Well, so I wondered if they're trying to get devs excited, because like getting on Fallon could get like small people who I don't know what developers haven't heard of them yet. Is the thing? Already. Yeah, I mean when Carmack came out with a pair of ski goggles last year, I don't know.
What you mean to say is that it doesn't make sense for this type of coverage for consumers to get excited, and the byproduct of this coverage is that consumers will get excited
and not be able to buy it until
to buy the real thing,
Christmas or next year,
or make the mistake of buying something that is not ready for them.
Yeah, if you go out, just to be clear, if you go out and buy an Oculus today, with the early ship, with the first ship, with the dev kit, which is $300 and is a fair price, there's one game that supports it right now.
What's the one game?
TF2. You can play TF2.
Officially supports it.
Yeah. Then there's a bunch of hacked stuff that, given the quality of hacked stuff with 3D shutter glasses,
did we talk about Doom?
Be good.
Doom not being available.
We haven't talked about that. No.
Yeah. So they said that when they first announced Kickstarter, Doom BFG would be included as a bundle, and since John Carmack was the first early proponent of this, and now that's kind of been handed off to, I think Cliffy B is a bigger proponent now. John Carmack's kind of hands off now.
Well, and yeah, they have Unreal and Source Engine both.
Unity and Source and Unreal. Doom BFG will not ship with the Oculus Kickstarter kit, and I think people who did the Kickstarter probably all got this notice already. They can either get a Steam credit or an Oculus Store credit.
It's $20 for Steam or $25 for Oculus Store.
If you don't but you have to do it by I think the end of March. Select which one you want, and if you do not select one, then you default to the Oculus credit.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Which is fine. TF2 being a game that supports it, and that was sort of came out on Engadget this week because they went up to Valve to actually play it, is really interesting. Both in the sense of this is it's the first game that's officially supporting it.
Yeah,
it will support Oculus Rift.
Well, and also
at launch.
Valve is doing their own hardware.
And two,
stuff.
yes, Valve is doing their own VR stuff with Michael Abrash, and has explicitly said they have no hardware yet. In that story, and we'll get to actual gameplay stuff in just a second. In the story, the Valve guys said, I think they said they have like dozens of people working on hardware right now, but they have no hardware. At least none that's in the prototype stage. I think Gabe Newell a month ago said that their hardware would be about 3 months away.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily imply VR.
I mean, that could be augmented reality. It could be a controller. It could be anything.
Steambox. It could be just a wireless receiver. It makes sense that they are trying on the Oculus Rift because those guys have hardware ready and they want to see what TF2 or games are like. So it was a trade. They want dev kit units and they patched TF2 so it works. But
or just release the patch that they have had cooking for a while.
I think that the Oculus Rift for TF2 is going to be very disappointing
because of the control.
I think the way the game is played. I think TF2 is a wrong type of game to play with Oculus Rift, and having played a shooter with Oculus Rift, Unreal 3.
Did you play the Citadel thing?
No, I played.
You played Unreal 3.
Deathmatch with bots with Oculus Rift. Games need to be significantly modified. Head and body movement need to be independent.
You need like the torso twist from a mech game.
Yes.
Or you need to be inside a cockpit and rotating, looking around the cockpit.
You need extra
or
motor
like
control.
That.
And I don't think the TF2. I think the way it was explained, the TF2 default for Oculus Rift is, and that's I think the only way you can control the Oculus Rift with TF2. Control TF2 with Oculus Rift is mouse look is tied to Oculus Rift.
So what you're saying is instead of breaking gun aim and head direction apart.
Yes.
Which is what you want. They're slaved to the head, or I assume you can turn off the head tracking entirely if you want.
Yeah, so you're moving the head is moving a mouse.
Yeah.
And
that's not a good experience.
Not for mouse look.
Yeah.
For mouse aim, for games like Arma and old simulation games.
Explain how Arma works. I'm sorry, I haven't played it.
So some simulation games have a boundary box in the center of the screen, kind of like either a square or a rectangle.
Okay.
And if you move your mouse within the boundary box, then you're just aiming and you're not changing your look.
Oh, so it's as if you were laying prone and you're zeroing in with your arms without turning your whole body.
Yes. That's just moving your arms and to aim. But once you move to the edge of that boundary box, then you start pushing your body movement and you're looking.
Okay.
But then again, that's aim, head movement, and body movement all tied together as one.
Yeah.
And they're only solving for aim and body movement, technically, which is still tied to head movement.
Well, but aim and body movement are slave to each other. So at this point, it's as if you couldn't rotate your neck or torso.
So I think what would make sense for an Oculus Rift, and if anyone's developing it, I think what needs to happen is obviously mouse needs to be independent of head movement. Mm-hmm. But there should be a boundary also. So once you move the mouse to the edge of the boundary, then your body moves, because that's what people are still familiar with, using the mouse to move your body in a game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's you should, like, as in the cursor the crosshair should stay aimed in the same place, the reticle, and you can look over to the left or look over to the right.
But if you move your crosshair around the screen, you're not moving your body unless you move it outside a specific.
Yeah, this is going to be real complex to explain to people.
Very, very complex.
I mean, I think that the place to try this first is like racing games.
Well, the place to try this first is where you don't have to aim, where you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Where you have head movement and you're maybe on rails, or you have head movement and one other mode of control, which is your body, which is a vehicle.
Yeah, if you're in a car and you can look over your shoulder to see if somebody's passing you, that's badass.
Yes, but then you're also not aiming with another thing.
Right, right.
Or you know what? Get a motion track, Leap Motion, or some type of Wii
Track
type,
IR?
or not Track IR, Leap Motion, or the Razer.
The Hydra.
The Hydra, and you could have one hand on a steering wheel and one hand on a pistol and shoot and
You're saying Interstate 76
or Carmageddon. Yeah,
I'd love Interstate 76.
You could drive. You could drive, look around, and then shoot out the window
and aim. That's perfect.
There you go. Game developers, go for it.
My fear with this is that they're trying to get good press out in front of bad press. Like if they're holding the kits because they're worried that they're not going to be received well, or that people are going to be
bad press will only happen if the games aren't there.
Well, but I'm saying you mean it at real hardware launch.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying right now, like I think they might be afraid that a bunch of people bought this and didn't read the disclaimer that said don't buy this if you're not a developer.
No. I think if you're buying on, you can buy it on Kickstarter and it's on their website. It's very clear this is a developer kit.
I understand, but how many people read the fine print? You remember Gary saw this at South by and was like, "I'm ready to buy. Let me give you $300 right now." Gary is the unfettered id of the normal American consumer.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Gary.
Okay, do you want to talk about the Galaxy S4 launch?
Are we at that point already? All right.
I mean, we can hold it.
No, let's talk about it.
I think it's fucking bananas. Like,
did you?
I went back and watched it. So I was out. I wasn't in front of a computer when it started, and I came in at what I thought was the.
Let's paint a word picture for people who haven't seen it yet.
It's at Radio City Music Hall, a big, huge theater in New York.
Samsung's Unpacked event. Yeah, it massive. This is Broadway, basically. Yeah. And it was streamed live to everyone on YouTube, and also at Times Square there was a viewing audience watching a stream at Times Square.
Yeah.
And
why would you go to Times Square? Okay,
you know what?
Anyway.
A lot of people go to Times Square for all sorts
I guess
of
we
things.
were there when they did an opera thing in Times Square. That was kind of cool.
It was a 1 hour show.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Wasn't like a 2-3 hour announcement. They got the CEO of Samsung out to actually make the announcement of the phone and quickly tout a few features.
At the beginning, I thought that was the bad part, but then it turned out to be quite good.
The bad part, of course, you get the CEO of Samsung to make the announcement, and that's pretty much all we needed from that announcement. Announce the phone.
Can I just say I really missed the app demos from the iPhone launches? Like by the end of this, I was just thinking, man, can we get some guy who comes out, makes some sort of medical imaging thing to come out and tell me about some shit that I don't care about at all? So, okay. So they had the can we start with the kid?
Well, let's say that this event, given that it was broadcast online, it was a lot like that PS4 event in that this was a consumer announcement.
Yeah, but the PS4 event was I thought handled quite well.
That it was a consumer announcement,
meaning not for the press,
not primarily. For the press. Even though the press was there and they had the hands-on time afterward. Unlike an Apple event, which is while released later online by Apple, is for the press and for analysts.
Yeah,
press and analysts.
And then which secondarily for the diehard fans,
which informs how people. How they program this event.
Yeah, Google does the same thing. Google's events are for press analysts and developers typically, and also for the grognards. So okay, they had a kid. Can we just say at this point that you should never have a kid at this kind of event? Like, don't hire child actors for this sort of thing. Just don't. Because the kid was bad and annoying, and he carried this box that theoretically included the phone, and like the whole premise of the thing was flawed from the very beginning. When they send the kid home with the box that is to be unpacked at the event that theoretically contains the Galaxy S4, the most desirable phone in the universe, and then he just takes it and puts it on his dresser in the bedroom and totes it around with him, it just doesn't make any sense at all. He gets out of the car.
It was showy.
There's a limo. It's ridiculous. It's nonsensical in a real. And then
it was theatrical.
There was a lot of theatrical. And then the least funny man on earth.
I already forgot his name.
Will something. He was a bad for wills everywhere. He told a series of jokes that fell flat one after the other, and like still did the pause for laughter even after they kept bombing over and over and over again, and then commented on the pause for laughter. Really, just
it was all very scripted though. I don't.
Oh yeah. You don't say.
But I don't know if the pause for laughter, like the self-awareness stuff.
You don't think that the pause for laughter was they were expecting real laughs there? They had to be. because you don't build a pause for laughter in unless you expect a laugh.
Okay.
It was basically like the Imagine a World guy at CES in the beginning, because there was a lot of imagine being able to take a picture of yourself while you take a picture of your child.
Did you read the Verge story about the guys who wrote the script for that?
No, they found them?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I'd love to talk to those people.
They were Broadway producers and writers, and they said that they were basically rewriting the script every night. And sending approval to Samsung. They were the hardest they ever worked, and they were very surprised about the response. They said that every bit of the show performance had to be sent back to Korea for approval. Everything down to the socks that the actors wore.
The misogyny involved,
and there was definitely a cultural barrier that had to be overcome in terms of the humor. But I'm sure even on Samsung US side, there are a lot of advisors and people who signed off on it who thought that they were doing something genuinely endearing and funny and in tune with the American Broadway culture and history.
Maybe they underestimated the appeal of Broadway outside of a very small audience. I've been to Broadway shows before, and Broadway shows aren't like this.
I think that most of the people complaining about it are people in the tech press, and rightly so. But I don't know if people. I don't get a sense that people who watched it, who are just consumers, who one wanted to hear about a phone, and two wanted to hear maybe would have appreciated hearing about the phone in an entertaining way. I didn't get complaints from them.
Did they watch it?
Hundreds of thousands of people watched it.
Where would you have gotten complaints from them, I guess, is what I'm asking. Like, when would you be exposed to those people? When would they have seen it?
YouTube comments, maybe?
I can go look at the YouTube comments. I bet they're going to be just as good as everywhere else. So just a long story short, they had this weird kid. They had the tone-deaf Broadway host guy who was breaking the fourth wall and doing all sorts of weird Broadway stuff in a way that was neither endearing nor funny and just went on way too long. They introduced the phone, which was, as you said, a high point. And then they basically did a series of skits to illustrate each feature. And they were they were the kind of theater that I don't like. You know, the knowing winks and the...
Well, we know that you don't like Prairie Home Companion, so
I don't. I think
you don't like precious theater.
Garrison Keillor is a fraud, as far as I'm concerned.
And anything that's overly precious is...
It's not that it's precious. It's that it's the reason I don't like Garrison Keillor is completely different. I don't like Garrison Keillor because it's fake small town America.
And I don't like this. This was fake Broadway.
No, I don't even think this was fake Broadway. I think this was just really super sexist all the way through.
Well, yeah, of course it was sexist, misogynist, and they did it.
And
the script was...
And blaming this kind of sexism on cultural differences is a complete fucking cop-out. Because that's great, but they did it here.
They did it here, and it was signed off by people here as well.
Right.
And totally not forgiving that, but I think that the idea of doing a Broadway show, and if they'd done it right, was at least a bold move and a good move on their part to not try to do something like an Apple event, which many companies do. With their, try to have a reality, bank on the reality distortion field. Better to do
a bad press conference for realsies than I'd rather see a bad Apple style press conference poorly executed than this. This was a disaster.
It was poorly executed.
I don't think that there's an official Samsung version of this for obvious reasons.
I think that no one's hearts were in the wrong places, but it could have been because it was, programmed by committee and written by committee and approved by committee, that what we saw at the end was something that their ambitions were far exceeded their capabilities.
The comments on this I don't think I can read them on the internet. They're real bad. A few people say that they really like the skit with the women and the shirtless guy.
See, I think that the populace...
No, I think they're making fun of it.
I think that the populace, the people who watched it at Times Square, and maybe some of the people who buy who's walking to a store and buy phones, they want to know about the GS4 because a lot of people know about the GS3 and they want to hear about it in a way that was interesting.
Okay, so taking out the sexist stuff and setting that aside for right now, do you remember the features of the phone that they listed in the skits?
Yeah, absolutely.
I watched it. Yeah. Okay, so what were they?
So they had eye scrolling and the smart eye stuff, which is
the infrared eye tracking.
The eye tracking, which is I don't like eye scrolling. I don't like these. I don't ever like apps that where you scroll based on tilting or eye tracking.
Always being
everyone is different, and my scrolling is very determined. But what I do like about that feature is that if you look away from the screen, then it potentially stops. Like if you're not paying attention for a video. I don't know whether that's useful, but that's something that's interesting to me. They talk to their camera a lot, so about their camera stuff a lot.
The ability to take the picture from the front camera and the back camera at the same time.
Video from the front and the back at the same time, and use that in live conferencing, and also a really fast shutter in order to remove stuff. I mean, it's just additional processing software.
Yeah. You mean the thing where you take 6 shots simultaneously, very quickly, and
then it will try to combine them in a way to remove fast-moving objects in the background. They talked about their new translation app. So you have built-in voice translation into the phone. And really the big thing is, the hardware stuff, bigger screen in basically the same physical design and body of the GS3 and a bigger battery to power that. And then they didn't specifically talk about processor, but that's because on the US side and on the international side, they will have different processors.
And I thought the eye scrolling stuff was dependent on the other processor, right?
I don't know about that. I don't think so.
Anyway.
I mean, as a phone, it looks it's uninteresting to me in terms of the hardware because the phone... I never liked the design of the GS3, and Gary said that the Galaxy was designed to avoid being sued by Apple in every way. I think
that's fair.
That's fair, and that's why if they spent all that money and all that R&D and building that image and that brand for people, and GS3 is extremely successful, it makes sense that GS4 would also look like that. It's just that it's not a design that appeals to me. I don't think that 1080p phones are necessary, and I think that the battery trade-off is not worth it right now. I think if you can pack a bigger battery and have a similar screen and still do a 720p screen, or 1280 by 768 screen like the Nexus 4 and have longer battery, maybe not double, but 50% more battery, that is a more compelling feature. And I think that in terms of Android phones right now, the HTC One, which is suffering production problems, I think that is a much bolder design. I like that phone more.
Yeah,
on paper,
it looks like we haven't handled either of the phones yet. I mean, so then they also talked about stuff like their built-in services, like the Samsung Health thing that will help you lose weight and other stuff. I don't know. It was really unfortunate. They would have been better served by having a slideshow and 10 minutes and saying, here's the phone, here's what it does, and we're out, and then spending that money on a marketing campaign. Yeah,
so you have 2 options to do an event like this. You can go try to, in terms of reaching the most people, you can do a big event that is for that most people population for the consumers directly, which is what they did.
Oops.
Or you can do an event that is for the press and enthusiasts and do it in a way that appeals to them, so they get the word out to most people.
Which is a
riskier move, but that's what Apple does.
I don't understand why they didn't have their ad agency do this, because their ad agency understands. Like the ad agency people would have said, "Hey,
their ad agency people."
I can't imagine the same people who are doing the commercials.
Well, they didn't have that guy who was in all the ads.
You mean the iPhone guy?
The smarmy Samsung guy.
Yeah.
The guy who's
I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand how something like this, how anybody at any point says, yes, this is a good idea, we should keep doing this.
I think it's not a big secret in the world that there is groupthink, and that it's easier to agree with someone than disagree with someone in many cases when there's a lot on the line.
Fair enough. Okay. The phone looks really good. All the dumb shit about the press conference aside, the phone looks like a really nice piece of hardware. I know you're concerned about the 1080p
It is
screen.
Android. It is newest Jelly Bean.
Yeah.
Not last Jelly Bean, not 4.2, 1.2. It's 4.22. And
they didn't announce carriers or anything like that for the U.S.
I think it'll be. They didn't announce that,
but it'll be everywhere.
It'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
It has a SIM card slot, and
so even the Verizon version will be.
It has a micro SD slot.
Yeah.
Which is what some new Android phones don't have.
Yeah.
So at least they're fulfilling that.
That's good. Samsung also announced this week that they are revisiting their smartwatch efforts to compete with Apple's rumored watch.
They're getting ahead of the Apple, and I think that is a smart move to deflate Apple's announcement.
If they have an announcement.
Which I think they will, but I don't think it will be successful.
I don't.
So I think this is really interesting because smartwatches, we had like the Motorola stuff.
We've had the
Motorola.
No, TI.
We had that too. The Meta Watch is TI.
There's a Motorola one?
Yeah, the ACTV thing. Whatever it's called. It's some acronym.
ATSC?
No.
That was a Sony.
Nope.
ATIV.
Motorola. And
I remember that one.
You're a computer.
No, it's fine. I believe you.
And I think that everyone is looking for the next new form factor, the next iPad, iPhone, and watches seem like a logical thing for people to jump to conclusions to. I think in terms of Samsung's perspective, I'm not confident they can launch something because other people have tried and get mass market adoption the way that Apple could with a similar product. Because of the unified ecosystem and of course for like reality distortion reasons. But getting ahead of that announcement does really deflate Apple's potential announcement, it's a win-win for Samsung.
I think, have you watched the Pebble reviews?
Have you
been paying attention to that at all?
Pebble.
No, I don't think anyone, including the people who purchased the Pebble, are excited about the Pebble.
Yeah.
I talked to, I listened to, I don't want to get into it. We'll get, I think Jeff and Vinny and a bunch of those guys from Giant Bomb went down the Pebble hole, so maybe we'll get them in.
They have
GDC.
Pebbles?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I want to get them in after GDC to chronicle their shame. Well, that was weird. I think it was the end piece for the table. Oops. Yeah. I'm down on the whole watch thing.
No, I'm down
after
on
using that Meta Watch. It has to be
for many
really
reasons. It needs to not look like a giant. It needs
to not look like a piece of shit.
Yes, it needs to be smaller.
Yeah.
And it needs to do more things than just give you a beep when your phone is in your pocket.
Well, I mean, so here's
show text messages.
Here's the thing: is if you pair that with the Google Now stuff, which is really awesome. Then like I can see the benefit of that. If the watch if I have to go to the watch to find the thing that I want instead of the watch just popping up the thing that I want without me having to do anything.
Will also need to be watch first.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of those devices are watch first.
Well, what do you mean from a having to charge them every night perspective?
No, or from you wear it on your wrist to know what time is.
Yeah.
First. Watches are not wristwatches.
It's quarter
have been around for
hundreds of years,
and the ones that sell well for a very specific reason, and the design is more refined, and there are many designs, but doing something completely different in terms of like the bulkiness and design that is not something people want.
Well, I mean, big bulky watches have been around since diving watches, and since the first pocket watch was strapped on an arm, but the trend has been towards smaller and lower profile, unless you're going for a statement watch like a big Omega or a Rolex. Or
one really big problem or challenge to designing something that's going to go on your arm, like your forearm or wrist, as opposed to something that fits in your pocket, is that just everyone's in different shape and size. And even when you have something like a Nike Fuel Band or the Fitbit Up, they have to release 3 times as many SKUs as you would a phone or tablet because
I have dainty girl
one
wrists.
Size does not fit all.
Yeah.
I would rather have a full forearm attachment.
You want like the Leela thing?
Not that bulky or like a Pip-Boy, but like something
like a cuff.
More than just something that goes around your wrist.
Something sweatband size.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Sweatband size works if you have skinny wrists.
Because then you fit the wider surface area, which means you get, as opposed to going bulkier.
Yeah.
It is just wider.
So you're thinking about something that like has an OLED display and like it doesn't, it looks like a bracelet until the screen comes on.
Yes.
It's kind of a fashion challenge for dudes, though. Yeah. Anyway, we'll figure that out. We're in a brave new world.
If it fires lasers, then who knows?
We're in a brave new world of weird shit that people wear.
If it has a level,
why would you need a level?
Oh.
Why not? I guess. Yeah. You hang a lot of pictures. I really hope they don't have a press conference about the watch.
I'm sure they will.
Microsoft's paying developers $100 for new apps for Windows 8. Each
Twitter
new app.
Twitter got $100.
Twitter got $100. The place that this breaks is that people seem to be releasing the same app highly localized, so that like a local sports app for 3,000 different locations. It's a good way to make revenue, I guess, if you have something that you can just change some zip codes in and republish. A couple of long-term ecosystem proponents that were both my previous Microsoft employees and worked at other places have come out and said paying people for new apps is the worst way to build an ecosystem, which I tend to agree with. Did you see the stuff about Blue?
No.
So we've talked a little bit about Vizio in the past and how they kind of disrupted the TV market by saying, look, we're not going to pay money on marketing. We're not going to spend money on advertising. We're just going to make TV. We're going to buy screens or build screens that are high quality screens and sell them without the marketing expense built in.
And cheap and put them in Costco.
Put them in Costco. They came into the market in Costco. They did.
Where people are price conscious.
People are already price conscious, and they were making what seemed like at the time they launched too good to be true deals on flat screen TVs. I remember they were among the first that had a $1,000 40-inch LCD
1080p.
Yeah, that was and that was a huge deal at the time. Yep. The main way they do that is by not. Samsung spends billions of dollars advertising their TVs every year and phones and everything else. Vizio spends no money on TV ads or is very strategic about it and buys inexpensive buys or whatever. Blue is a company out of Florida. The Verge wrote about this week, and they're doing the same thing for phones. They were looking and saw, look, here's what a Tegra 3 costs. Here's what a screen costs. Here's what the radio costs. What if we just put together a phone that is a really nice looking stock Android design, running the stockest Android, the hardware that's supported out of the gate, and put it together in a package and sell it for, say, $299 off contract rather than $600 off contract. So there's a couple of different markets for this that I think are really interesting. One is the people who smash their phones. If you're 6 months into a phone, you break it, you're on contract for the next 18 months. Then you have the choice of either dealing with a smashed screen for a long time, or you pay $500 or $600 to get the same phone. The phone replaced with the same model, and you have to pay the full price for it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that it's interesting for like prepaid phones and less expensive phones. You can get a good phone that runs stock Android, which is not a bad thing at all anymore these days, for a very reasonable price, and it's as capable as, say, maybe not a Galaxy S4, but a Galaxy S3 seems to be what they're going to go up against at launch, looking at hardware. So it's Blue. It's BLU. I think it's really interesting.
Team Blue.
Riccatello, the president, CEO of EA, stepped down.
Well, he is in the process of leaving. He has resigned.
You can't leave. It's not like you just turn in your card key at the end of the day when you're a CEO of a big company like EA, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
He says he takes full responsibility for the lack in revenue and drop in share price. And if you look at EA's share price, I mean, there was a big drop in 2009 along with all the other companies with the big
the crash.
And they've been making money. It's back up to not where it was before. I think like $50, around like $18-19. But
well, they've had a couple of kind of high-profile failures. The Old Republic was a $200 million debacle that they're probably never going to see the money back out of, right?
Yeah, that was supposed to be one of the pillars.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to make a WoW killer, and it turns out that they're probably not. I wonder if anybody's ever going to make another Star Wars MMO. It's probably done, right?
No, nope.
You think there's
Disney.
more in the future? I guess so. Toontown Online.
Yeah.
SimCity SimCity, the SimCity. The freebie games came out earlier this week if you had bought in, and it was actually a kind of interesting list. I think they did a good job of getting stuff that It wasn't anything that EA's published, obviously, but it was a broad spectrum.
It was everything that EA.
No, well, it was all EA published games,
Yes.
but it wasn't all of the games that EA
Oh, yes.
publishes.
Okay.
You had a subset of games that you could choose from, and it was, I think, BF3, Dead Space 3, Mass Effect 3, SimCity 4, Bejeweled, and Plants vs Zombies. Maybe something else.
Yeah.
But if you think about what the market is for SimCity,
It's people who have most of those games. Oh, maybe not. Maybe like people who spend $60, 3 times a year to buy games.
Yeah.
They bought SimCity and Battlefield, but didn't buy Dead Space. Or
I think it's more telling that in the mainstream focus, because like if my mom is into SimCity, right?
Maybe she wants Plants vs Zombies.
Right. She's probably going to be much more interested in Plants vs. Zombies or Bejeweled than Dead Space 3.
And some people, I don't think a ton of thought was put into this. It was they looked at what the sales were doing for those other games.
Oh, obviously.
And then how many people are going to redeem this code, and you have to redeem it by a certain time. So please check your Origin account and email.
You just have to log in, basically, to Origin.
And,
if you bought SimCity. Yeah. They released a patch yesterday that supposedly helps fix the traffic problems.
I don't think it fixes it, just helps it.
Yeah, I didn't log back in to see how my broken ass cities were doing, but yeah, we'll maybe I'll do that over this weekend. Hopefully, have some time. So like EA had a real hard time. They bought Playfish in 2009. Is that right? 2008, thinking that they were going to use that to go up against Zynga. Zynga's had a hard time since then as well, and they've kind of. When Riccatello started, when you and I were at E3 in 2008 or 2009, we were there for the presentation at when Riccatello said, "Look, we're focusing on AAA new franchises like Dead Space and Mirror's Edge."
He did. He took Dante's Inferno and all that stuff, and there have been 3 Dead Space games, and it came back to bite him.
Yeah. So I mean,
and EA was early on mobile.
Yeah, because the stuff that they were doing on mobile was the Pogo stuff. They moved to mobile.
They had all the license for
Tiger Woods,
Risk, and Tetris, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and they also were innovative on pricing on the mobile stuff too. I think they realized that. I'm really interested to see what they do next. Like they could go any number of different ways.
It's tough to be a big publisher and do release 40, 50 games a year.
Yeah, well, I don't think they release 40 or 50 games a year anymore.
Not
big games,
but never big games. But in total, if you count all the Wii games and stuff like that,
I guess so.
It's a ton.
Cabela's Dangerous. Oh, that's not a EA game, but whatever. Engadget Expand. Do you want to talk about this and what we were testing?
Yeah, sure. Let's go to what we're testing.
I'm going to play some music. So you went to Engadget Expand this weekend?
Yeah, it was a conference in San Francisco.
Where was it?
It's Fort Mason Center.
Okay.
And there were a couple of interesting talks there. The big talk I wanted to see was a robotics talk from Chris Anderson, and
formerly of Wired, not
formerly
of
the editor of Wired, now CEO of 3D Robotics, which is a really good talk.
He's into drones, right?
He's super into drones,
meaning
building radios for drones, automated drones. So drones are not just like, he would not call the paired AR drone a drone, because that is 100% human control.
It's an RC plane.
It is an RC plane, quadricopter.
Yeah.
A drone has brains and programming that you can automate and direct with not controlled by wire. So you can send GPS coordinates or program algorithms so it knows. For example, one of the problems with paired AR drone is that when you fly it, you don't know when the battery's going to run out, and so it could just fall down when the battery runs out, like 10 minutes later.
Or if it gets outside of range of your phone's Wi-Fi, then you have problems.
Smart drones and drones these days, what they can do is you can have controllers and chips that set a GPS boundary, so when the drone flies outside the boundary, it will automatically, you lose control of it, direct control of it, and it will fly back in and land. Or when it's low in battery, and it's away on the coast, the great example he gave is someone could be with the sensors on drones now and tagging and GPS, you could be
image tagging, like object tracking,
and RFID and all types of sensors. You can be a surfer, and you could hit a button on a GoPro or on a wrist strap or something and send a drone from the beach out and stay exactly 20 feet away from you to shoot GoPro footage of you.
Oh, to like get over the shoulder or whatever. Oh, that's awesome.
It maintains all that tracking, and then when the drone is low on battery, it'll automatically fly back to the beach and recharge. Yeah.
Like, is this stuff real?
Yeah,
or is this
absolutely real?
And
he sells controllers and he sells radios.
You mean like Arduino type a controller to build a kit?
Yeah.
Oh, we should buy one of those and build a drone.
They are quite expensive. There are many companies that sell drones that range from $500 to $1,000. And it's all about trade-offs. I mean, you add how many rotors you want to increase weight. The class of drones,
you mean to increase the load?
You can lift from GoPro to DSLR. And the big growth, I mean, there's a lot of consumer growth here, but the big growth is going to be in commercial and business and agriculture and stuff like that.
Hey, Norm, can I borrow your DSLR for a little bit?
No, you may not.
Oh, come on. I just need it for a couple hours.
Yeah. And the other guy who was there for robotics was Mark Raybart, I want to say his name is.
Boston Dynamics.
CEO of Boston Dynamics, ex-MIT.
Was the big dog there?
No. Oh. He was there to do a presentation about what they do, but he did give hints about what their next project is.
Did he show video of a big giant robot throwing anything?
It's the funniest thing because
we haven't seen?
People, I mean, most of the stuff we've seen before on YouTube, but the people who haven't seen it, you can tell. There's while he was talking, there was a giant screen to his left, and there was a security guard there. Standing in front of like a VIP area, and during this presentation, he would just turn around and stare at it, and then you could see, I was like, "Oh my god!" And then, like between presentations, he would try to whip out his phone and take pictures of it and video of it because this is something that the Boston stuff is amazing.
It's the fucking Terminator, man. Yeah. It's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
What's Willow Garage?
Willow Garage is another robotics company, but they're more about practical robotics in the home. So taking Roomba-type robotics to the next level.
Okay.
Home assistance, home care, and hospital robotics. Their current robot, I think, is like $250,000, but it's what the stuff it can do. And I mean, it's very slow, obviously, but the stuff that they're doing with it in both in research and in like the medical field is really interesting.
And then you saw some other stuff too.
In the expo area, I guess, the Z Space.
So like there was one talk going at a time. Is that the way this worked?
It's just one talk, and then it was a conference type talk.
Okay,
it's a type event.
Like you had like a big bunch of chairs and everybody sat down and talked. Okay,
yeah, and it was a really big space, not really packed, and they look like they spent a lot of money on it. There were switches at every desk.
You mean like network switches?
Network switches.
Oh, that's nice.
None of them were used.
Well, everybody's on Wi-Fi.
Everyone's on
It's
Wi-Fi.
the future.
Z-Space is a company that makes displays, and they've had a product out for about a year, since last April. But it's a 3D modeling, or it's for 3D modeling. But the idea is that they have a 24-inch panel with 2 cameras on the top left and right, and you wear 3D glasses, passive 3D glasses. It goes at 120 hertz, and you could see a 3D CAD image or something. But there's head tracking on the glasses, so when you move your head left to right, the image doesn't move on the screen.
Oh, so it's like the Ghost Protocol thing.
So yes, because it tracks where your head is, it looks like the 3D image that's popped up, 10 inches from the display is stationary, so you can look around it or at its sides.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there's a pen control, which in the 3D image looks like, because there's also tracking on the pen with IR, with markers, it looks like there's a laser from the pen tip going straight into the screen, into the
model?
Into the model, but that laser
crazy.
is not real, and then you use that to manipulate the model. So you can actually rotate things in 3D space, and so it looks like what Iron Man would, like what Tony Stark used in Iron Man 1. Except using a pen instead of his hands.
Okay, so I'm going to bring it back. Did you read the article about how Minority Report setting back UI design?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We never talked about that.
I mean, it's an old story that when the experts that Spielberg brought in to design the UI of Minority Report, the wow factor was great for movies, but was not practical because people didn't want to hold up their hands in space. And it was a demonstration of the capabilities of motion tracking and motion control, but no real... It was designed by hardware guys, not software guys.
So I wonder if the Z-Space thing is that same category, because I don't, like, what were the examples of the models they were using?
Medical.
Oh, okay. So
medical.
they're looking at like CAT scan results and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a completely different thing.
It's not for the home. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even see like a CAD person using that, because the 4-window CAD view is at this point, if you know how to use CAD, then it's like the difference between...
This is Gen 1 product.
Okay.
Just like, Google Glasses and everything. It's all about what developers will develop stuff for.
Something weird and cool. Yeah. Ouya was there too?
Ouya was there, CEO of Ouya.
Is that how you say it? Did you get confirmation?
It is Ouya.
Okay.
Like Ouya.
Like what Marines say?
No, I don't think...
I guess that's Ouya.
Yeah.
Or Hua.
I'm not a believer of Ouya as a platform.
Because of the awesome quality of Android games?
What's impressive about Ouya is their ability to develop a new console, sell for and get mass produce it, design it, and sell it for $100.
And relatively quickly too.
Yes,
I mean
that is the story of Ouya. Its development and prototyping and production and sale and Kickstarter, all those things being ready at the right time, so that you don't have to be a Microsoft or a Sony to develop a console, quote unquote, air quotes. That is the success story of Ouya, but I don't think that their idea of putting Android games on the big screen in the living room, is going to be... I mean, they're an app store, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be widely adopted. I think people are going to buy Ouyas and break them and turn them into media streamers.
It's the new QCat.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
I spent this weekend learning Arduino stuff, which was really fun.
Raspberry Pi?
Not Raspberry Pi, just Arduino at this point. The Raspberry Pi will come in later. So I've sat down and I realized I have like 3 or 4 projects that are going to be really good for Arduino stuff. One is lighting in my pantry, which is a real dumb thing, but you've seen my pantry in the kitchen. It's very narrow and very deep, and it's really hard to see in the back. And we've tried a bunch of different stuff to get lights back there, and none of it's very good. So I was looking at the cheap LED strip lighting that Adam uses in his shop, and it's good stuff. It's like $15 for 5 meters of it or something like that. And it's really straightforward to wire up. You can control the, I found a couple of how-tos that explain how to control higher voltage sources than the Arduino can provide using MOSFETs and stuff like that. So I put together a basic circuit that lets me trigger the light with either like a micro switch, like in a joystick, or the thing I'm using right now is called a Hall effect sensor, which is what like tachometers use to determine how fast the engine's running. They use magnets, so it detects a magnetic field, and the idea is that you put some magnets on the bottom of the door, put all this stuff up under the floor, run the wires up through into the pantry, and then when you open the door, the lights will fade up. And the thing I didn't really appreciate is that basically to write the code for Arduino, it's all just straight C. Yeah. Which I took 20 years ago, an intro to C class when I was in college.
Object-oriented programming.
No. C, not C++. Oh, wow. I mean, you can do functions and stuff like that, but the basic syntax seems to be the same as C. I'm not an expert, so I could be wrong. I apologize in advance. It's been really fun because like the problem I had learning programming was the stuff you do in the early classes is so abstract and boring. Like making a CD jukebox is the least interesting thing in the world, right? Which was one of the demo programs. It's the demo program that stuck with me from the C class. However, on the opposite of that is that getting this light to dim up in the way that I want and figuring out how to do the math for that and making it work the way I want it to work is incredibly satisfying. Like when I finally got it to work so that when I move the magnet away, the light turns on and it dims up slowly so that it's not like, just bang it's on, bang it's off. It feels really good. So I'm going to write that up. The last piece of the Tetris shelves are waiting on my ability to lift stuff that weighs more than 20 pounds because I can't take any pictures right now. But that'll be up shortly. I apologize for the delay on that. And then this will follow shortly because it's like a 2-day. Basically, like I've designed all the circuits and all that stuff. Now I just have to put it together on a prototype shield and figure out how to mount it up underneath the floor and run the wires and take pictures. So that'll come up soon. It's really interesting. And then there's some other Arduino stuff down the road that's increasingly complex. But there's a ton of good documentation for that stuff out there. I didn't really appreciate.
What's the best resource?
There's so many. The people that sell the kits, like Adafruit and SparkFun, and those guys have tons of great how-tos. There's a bunch of good how-tos at Make. Arduino.cc, which is the Arduino project homepage, has a living shitload of links of both to projects that people have done. It has reference docs for function calls and stuff like that. That's really useful. One of the Arduino kits that I have has a book called Getting Started with Arduino that I think is a Make book that you can get on Kindle or iBooks or whatever as well. It's pretty good and gives a couple of so for me, I wanted something that assumed you understood the basics of C syntax, but maybe were bad at programming and didn't know anything about circuits, but were okay at soldering. And I was able to kind of piece together a series of resources and learn to use breadboards and that stuff. And that gives you the ability to figure it out in a relatively low risk environment. Like the worst thing I did was fried a $3 Hall effect sensor, but I bought 4 of them. So, the Atom lesson applied that waiting for shipping was worse than spending an extra $9 on something.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting. So I've got to figure out the right sensor to use for the lights in the hall. And then after that, one of the things that we do every week when we do not this podcast because the audio and video is automatically synced, but on Location Podcast, I want to build a clacker box that gives me a countdown timer and it has a big dumb red button and stuff like that. So we'll probably do that next or maybe project after. But increasingly, it's a good way to scale your ability to both write code and do kind of cool electronics-y stuff. So that's that. We talked about simple note, notational velocity, and just notes. The simple note, just notes combination, if you're on Mac, is pretty fucking awesome. If you're an Android user, there's fewer options, I think, for that. But it's pretty good. The Logitech G500S?
Logitech relaunched their mouse line. So
the G9X is no longer the greatest mouse ever made?
No, it's always been the G5. It's the greatest mouse ever made. That's the one you're using.
I thought I was using the G9. Oh, the G9 was the wireless one, right?
No, G9, G9X were the claw favored ones, those smaller ones.
That's the one I use, dude.
Are you on your desk?
No, the one on my desk is the secondary.
That's the greatest mouse ever made.
I like the other one better. The one with the interchangeable tops.
I don't like those.
Okay.
Never liked the G9.
Okay.
G500S.
So you're saying it's a personal preference?
It is. Surprise, mice are personal preferences.
So the G500 was the updated laser sensor version of the G5 series.
Yep. And this is the updated laser sensor of the G500.
Oh, okay. So it's you've been using it. You'd used a rat for a long time, right?
I use a rat and a Mamba.
Okay. Is this going to replace either of those?
Yes, already has.
Really? Which one?
Both of those.
Oh, okay.
I have like 4 mice connected to my USB.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I like the Mamba a lot. Do you use it plugged in all the time though, right?
Yeah, plugged in all the time.
You've also been using the Roku 3.
Yeah, Roku 3, $100 box.
Hooked it up?
Yep. It does sure plays Netflix. Sure plays Netflix. Haven't done much of the search stuff. The real interesting feature is that the remote control has a headphone jack, and so if you plug headphones into it, audio output will stop outputting from HDMI.
Yeah,
and you just hear audio from the headphone jack.
Okay, so the use case for this is
in your living
people
room.
Are in your living room, but they're not watching TV.
Yeah.
Have you used that yet?
Not naturally. I have used it and it works, but it's not one of those like, but I could totally see something going on, and if I'm only watching TV, then I would use that as opposed to annoying everyone.
It seems more of a passive-aggressive feature. Like if you're in the living room and people are talking and you want to watch something, you're just like, fuck you guys, I'm put on the headphones, so then you take away the audio
if you live
from
in
them.
the house with other people and,
yeah, maybe.
Someone's eating dinner in the kitchen and you want to watch something loud.
That struck me as a real weird feature. The thing that's more interesting to me is the universal search stuff that they've added more recently.
Yeah, I need to test that.
Have you hooked like Amazon up to it and stuff like that?
Amazon, HBO, and Netflix.
Does HBO work now?
HBO works, but there's no YouTube. I actually did not watch Game of Thrones on HBO. All that I only watched Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you test HBO because I know that they like for a long time HBO worked on Xbox, but not on that. And that may have changed when HBO said, "Hey, well, we're going to allow AirPlay now."
Worked on. Yeah, most everything I've used it on. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't working. I mean, I haven't used the
we used on mobile devices, which are different than set-top boxes. Yeah. I've had problems with our Roku 2 with Hulu and some of the other providers. So maybe I'll give you our Hulu login so you can try that. Because I want to make sure that that works. The Hulu on the Roku 2 has been unusable to the point that we've switched to using Xbox or Apple TV for that. Is there any kind of voice search or anything like that?
No.
Does this have the weird wavy motion sensitive remote control still?
I don't think it's motion sensitive.
Because remember they did that when they did the Angry Birds edition.
No.
Oops. I guess that'll do it for us for what we're testing then. Early impressions. You've used enough to say whether you recommend it or not.
No, not yet. I'm directly comparing it to the Western Digital. I also have the new Western Digital one, and also the Apple TV.
The 1080p one.
Yes.
Okay.
1080p.
Yeah. It's a weird market, that TV space. It's almost like people are waiting for something interesting to happen again. We have a couple of questions, and we'll call it a show.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Emails.
We don't do emails. We do
emails.
No.
Questions.
Boom.
If you have a question for This Is Only a Test, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Keep your question short, under 45 seconds, and send it to us in an audio file that doesn't sound like it was recorded when you were being chased by a pack of wolves. Here is our first question.
Greetings, Tested Crew. This is Dwayne from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where we are ranked number 30 as the most dangerous city in America on NeighborhoodScout.com, and our city is more than $340 million in debt. Hey, I recently got my kids a tablet and an iPod Touch for Christmas, and I'm kind of dismayed that for Apple and Google being these multi-billion-dollar companies, that they don't seem to have anything in place for having like a child account that me as an adult can curate and moderate and control purchases and then pass off to them when they become of age. I just wonder if you guys have any thoughts on that, or what I can do as a parent that wants to give these devices to my children in a responsible manner. Thanks for the help, and always be testing.
I did some research into this because this was a good question. It's been sitting in the queue for a while. There aren't dedicated child accounts for most devices. I think Microsoft offers that if you have on Xbox Live, which is not at all what he's asking. The Kindle Fires have kid versions. I think only the higher end ones, not the lower end. The thing you can do with Google is if you want to sign up for an account for a kid that's under 13, you can verify that it is a human being. Because what happens is what he said. If you sign up for an account on Google and you put in that you're under 13, or you change your age to under 13 after you've had it, then they eventually will kill the account because of the COPA stuff. COPA was the Child and Online Privacy Protection Act. If you're okay with your kid being online, you're allowed to do that, though. They don't have a built-in mechanism for you to say, I'm an adult, this is my child's account. But what you can do is put in a credit card number, and they'll make like a 3-cent charge or 50-cent charge or something like that, and I think refund it later. Basically, if you search Google's help site for verify that I'm an adult, then it'll verify I'm over 13. That's one of the ways you can do that. You can also send in a driver's license, which obviously the kids won't have. Apple's a little trickier. You just have to lie to them, basically, it seems like. So, yeah. And then if you want to monitor what they're doing, just teach them to not change their passwords, which is probably not the best thing to do, or set up a 1Password account and, whatever.
You manage it.
Yeah, you manage it for them. The nice thing is that at least on the iOS side, I don't know what the parental restrictions side is like on Android these days, but on iOS, you can basically shut down everything. So you can turn the phone, you can prevent people from buying apps and using certain apps and all the way down the line if you want them to have, say, a thing that plays the 5 apps that they use for school or work or whatever without having access to the full unfiltered internet. You can turn off Safari and the whole 9 yards. I guess that'll do it for us.
One question.
Just one question. I have another one, but I think we used it last week when I listened to it again. So we have a lot of questions for Adam. We don't have a whole lot of questions for This Is Only a Test. Again, if you have it, and just send text questions too. We'll do text questions. Put question for This Is Only a Test in the subject line so I can filter them out easily. Or TIOAT, as some people say. That'll do it for us this week. Anything else for you, Norm?
No, that's it.
Anything to plug? We have some good stuff on the site this week. Lloyd did a great write-up about board games. Wes did a barber tools thing. Was that right?
No, Rachel did a barber.
Rachel did a barber tool thing. It was really cool. So make sure you check it out if you just listen to the podcast. We have regular stuff going up on the YouTube channel and on thisisonlyatest.com. Oh, and Adam's, we did a Adam office tour this week.
Yes, tour of his home office.
So yeah, you should definitely check that out. It's some really cool stuff. You can see more of the bride's sword from Kill Bill. If you haven't seen enough of that already, we'll do more with that soon. So I guess that'll do it for us this week. Today's outro comes from Kloppy. We'll see you all next week on another episode of This Is Only a Test. Bye.
Hi there, I didn't see you. Test it.
We've just hired our new head of strategic vision, Will Smith, and people get all excited and they roll you out.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. Test it. It's probably also worth mentioning that if you want to submit your own outro, you can find out how to do that. It's at raw. If you Google raw outro song file,
Just those words?
It's number one result.
Raw outro song file.
Raw outro song file. Just you can upload it to SoundCloud. Make sure it's available for download, and post it in that thread. And I pull out whatever new ones hit every week. So that one was from Kloppy. Anything else we want to talk about? You were on vacation last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Did we talk about food when you were away?
We did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Sleep deprivation really gets to you after a while. I am substantially dumber
correlated
now
with age
than I was 3 months ago.
Did you know that everything is correlated with age?
Everything is correlated with it. Everything's correlated with everything else, Norm. That's the secret of the correlation.
Everything is correlated with age.
You can correlate anything with anything. Did you know that the number of passenger pigeons is correlated with the decline of tuberculosis? Yeah, as the passenger pigeon population decreased, tuberculosis also went away.
Yeah, wow.
Think about that.
It's good.
The rise of the Spanish flu is, well, that actually was a relationship. But yeah. Anything you want to talk about? Do you want to do fake outtakes today, or do you want to go get lunch?
I'm going to get lunch because we have to do another video right after this.
Pretty hungry, yeah. Okay, we will see you guys next week, and might have a special guest next week. So see you then. I don't think I clapped at the beginning. Always a mistake. Can you hit stop on the Aja?